Hi knitters, I'm back for episode 4 of The Guilty Knitter. I'm coming to you from Montreal. My name is Vivian, and I hope you'll enjoy the next maybe half an hour, 45 minutes with me knitting and talking about my knitting and showing you all the progress I've made on various things and also what I'm thinking of knitting in the future. I have like one finished object, that's it. So I've got my two companions here. I'll try not to make too much noise as I turn around and show you. That's Monty, the little white one, and Rosie, the little brown one. She's here visiting for the day because my neighbor upstairs, who is her owner, is out, and they often go back and forth, so they're hardly ever alone, and it's wonderful. It's a great way to, if you ever want to have a dog but I can't be bothered with doing all the work and all worrying about dog sitting, I recommend dog sharing. It's a great way to do things. I guess it wouldn't work so well if we didn't live so close to each other, but because she lives right upstairs, it works fantastically. I never have to worry about little Monty being alone for too long. Yeah, and Rosie too. They're both such sweeties. I figured, well, I don't have a co-host, and I really miss that because I think it's great when I watch podcasts to see the give and take between two podcasters. It just seems to add so much to the podcast. So I thought, well, I'll just put words in Monty and Rosie's voice and ask them questions, and that way I'll have a co-host. Anyway, we'll see. May or may not do that. What else is new? Let's see, I'm on holiday this week because, hey, my favorite composers are on the roster. Mozart and Beethoven. No trombones in most of their works. So I get some time off this week. And spent quite a bit of time knitting. And I went over to Espace Tricot's February sale on Saturday. Spent quite a lot of time looking at their yarn and talking with my friends who were there, and I did buy some yarn, and I'm really happy with it. I will show you that later on. My idea was to knit from stash since about November, and I was aiming for the end of February. I almost made it. Well, okay, I didn't purely knit from stash, I'll have to admit, but I was pretty good. And so my guilt level has slightly come down from not knitting, from just going randomly buying yarn I didn't need, to kind of thoughtfully buying yarn I don't need. And not as often. So some people have asked me why I call myself the guilty knitter. Well, there you go. There's one reason. Buying yarn, spending a lot of money on yarn. That I can't bring myself to buy yarn that's not just so beautiful, and and I can't buy cheap yarn, seems like. So that's just me. So I'd rather not buy it at all, I guess. And I don't need to because I have so much. And the other reason is the time that I spend knitting also makes me feel a little bit guilty. I think it's hard not to feel like there's a lot of other things I should be doing. Like when I look around, there's a lot of housework I could do, organizing my place, practicing my instrument, getting my finances in order, all kinds of things that I could be doing instead of knitting. But here we are. So, yeah. But, knitting is also really good for me and gives me a lot of pleasure, and it's very creative, and I'm thinking of ideas I'd like to maybe design a hat or a pair of mitts or something like that, or socks, something small. I think I could do it. I just have to put my mind to it. So yeah, so that's the chit chat for this morning. So I will start with my one and only finished object. Here we go. I started it, and since I last saw you, and I finished it. You know, it didn't take very long, although if you see it, this is an interesting story. Did I already talk about this? Oh yeah, I did videotape a little tutorial about the little baubles on here, so I may or may not insert it somewhere in this section, because I'm not sure it turned out all that well because I was having trouble keeping the work in the viewfinder. Of course, I think that's the challenge. Whenever I see tutorials on YouTube where you can't see the work that they're doing, it drives me nuts. So I will not be inserting it unless it came out okay. I'll have to check on that. But anyway, so what I did with this is the Kogo Cat by Caitlin Hunter, and I really, really like it. I was always planning to knit. Oh, hold on a minute. I'm gonna run and get. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so my plan was always I had this in my head to knit this hat, or some hat, with these two. And this is Tanis Fiber Arts DK's Pure Wash in their green light colorway. And this is the pool colorway of Shibui Silk Cloud. So I thought they looked really, really nice together. So I thought, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to knit this hat, double-stranded. It's going to be great. But then my house got all upside down, and when I had painting done, I think I mentioned it last time, and I started putting, I guess I put my yarn any old which way in these boxes and stuff, so I didn't want it all to get full of plaster dust. And then when I pulled out the yarn I thought it was, I pulled out the wrong shade of Shibui, because I have this one as well, which also looks really nice with it. And this was the Cove colorway, I think. It's quite a bit darker, right? Anyway, so I started knitting, and of course I hate starting projects. I always find that the first few rows are the hardest part, you know, to get it all the right way, and, you know, so it's not twisted on your needles, and this, and I don't know, for some reason, especially hats and mitts, I have a hard time, and cuffs of any kind when I have to do ribbing. And this is a twisted rib as well, so I was kind of distracted by all these other things, and plus I was probably watching TV and maybe drinking wine for all I know. I guess I'll never learn about that. So I got to about this far, and then I realized I thought to myself, oh, gosh, that looks kind of dark. And it occurred to me that I was knitting with the wrong shade of Shibui. So I did not want to undo it, because that would mean taking the two strands apart as well, which I think would have been really hard. So I thought, nope, not going to undo it. But what I did was I introduced the pool colorway like here, so that I could do this whole part with that, and just keep the darker color for the brim part, which it's quite, as you can see, it was quite challenging, because I had to keep these floats going on the other side. You see that? And yeah, so it was a bit of a challenge, but I did it, and I think I like the look of it. I wish I'd thought of maybe not bothering with stranding the top part and just letting this beautiful colorway speak for itself by itself. But I don't know, I was determined to use this pool because I just adore this color. I don't know, maybe it was a mistake because there's not enough contrast, but I really, really like it. And I had got this beautiful pom-pom from my friend for Christmas, and you can put it on any hat. She got it from Canuck here in Montreal. I'll try it on for you. I think it's quite nice. Yeah. It's quite a big pom-pom. I guess for some hats it would be too big, but I think this one carries it off quite nicely. So there you go. I quite like it. And I think you guys should try this. I'm using 2 colors for this, for the brim, and like 1 color for this part, the brim with the triangles, and another for this. It's quite nice. I had a little bit of an issue, like I said, with the baubles. I'd never done them before. I kind of like them, but it was hard to get them to really stand out, and she mentions that that's sometimes an issue. She mentions that in the directions. So it gives you a little technique how to get them to pop out a bit more. But I didn't necessarily have that great a success with it. But anyway, it was fun. It was fun to try to do that. I have to say that this is a real fur pom-pom. But it was a gift. What am I supposed to do? I love it. Anyway, so that's my only finished object. I have, again, my same old works in progress, which I can show you. I've got my socks, which I've got the second sock almost done. It seems to take me forever to make socks, especially when they have a pattern like this. But there you go. Oh, you know what? One more thing that I forgot. I wanted to show you Naomi's sock again. She finally has it out. Well, not finally. She has it out on Ravelry now. And it's called the Humble Sock. And I hope you check it out. I'm just going to show it to you on my sock blocker. Well, it's not my sock blocker. It belongs to my good friend, Linda. And she lent it to me the last podcast, and I forgot to use it. So I thought, well, I'll try it on this one. But unfortunately, it's a little small for this sock. Oh, yeah, so it's looking a little baggy, but gives you an idea. There you go. Isn't that lovely? Maybe I'll just twist it so you can see the cable. Well, yeah. See the cable a little bit better. That's down there. You can see that quite nicely. I have pretty big feet, but I find that this particular type of sock heel, the wrap and turn heel, short row heel, it kind of starts late in the sock. Like when I do a heel flap, I guess you start sort of here more, and so it makes this foot part look shorter than when you do that kind of heel. So yeah, that's that. And now my other one is almost finished. I'm getting there. I bet if anyone's wondering where I get my beautiful progress keepers, I made them myself out of old earrings. If you have single earrings, it's super easy to buy these little hooky things and just attach them. And then you haven't got wasted earrings, and this is one of my favorite earrings of all time. And I really was sad when I lost one of them. So now it's given new life. And I can't wait to wear these socks. So it won't be too long. But I'm telling you, socks are very, well, unless it's just a plain vanilla sock, but even then I find it hard to, I only kind of work on them when I'm in the bus or somewhere like that, or at work or something where I don't want to carry around a big project. All right, next thing, I'm going to show you my progress on my beautiful 3-color cashmere shawl. I got halfway through my stripe section, which I decided to knit in garter instead of the suggested stockinette stitch. I just got tired of purling and decided that I was gonna add a little texture. You know, why not? So I did this whole section, and I'm done now, which I'm very glad of because it was a bit tedious. Well, I don't know. It just that I've already got 366 something like that stitches on my needle. and it's going up another 100 stitches before I'm done. I'm a little nervous about this, but you just got to carry on stitch by stitch, right? I got to stop freaking out about it. So now this next section, I've only done one row, and it's in this dark purple colorway. Purple Rain, it's called. Oh, it's coming out very blue on the camera, but it's so purple. I wonder if I can... Yeah, no, it's definitely not showing up properly. Oh well, it's extremely purple, and I'm really loving it. So I will carry on with that. And since I'm about to do a purl row, I thought maybe I'd mention to you, this is something I've been meaning to talk about. Ever since let me tell you my little history of knitting. I started when I was in my teens, probably, I guess, early teens. I don't really remember it too well, but I guess my mother probably taught me. My grandmother also knitted. In fact, her story is, I remember her just telling me that she read Gone with the Wind while she knitted a dress. So I guess she was a pretty good knitter if she could read a novel while she was knitting. And I have a couple of really lovely photos of her knitting. That was my mother's mother. my dad's mother also knitted. She was an extremely crafty person. She did all kinds of things. So yeah, it's all in my blood, I guess. So as I was saying, I started knitting very young, and then I guess as every youngster does, you know, I started in Canada anyway. We tend to use the throwing knit method. That's how my mother knitted. That's how my sister knits. American style or English style, whatever. But my cousin, who is also a prolific knitter, she was knitting continental style. She's a few years older than me, and so when I first saw her knit, she was knitting continental, and I thought that was really cool. It looks so easy and looks so, I've got my glasses on, I'm going to take them off. It looks so much easier in a way, like less like time consuming or something. So I taught myself how to do it. I think she probably gave me a little hint, but I basically taught myself how to do it, and it was fine for the knitting part, no problem. I loved it. But when it came to purling, that's where I thought, oh, I think almost American style of purling is maybe easier, but I was determined to figure it out. So I carried on with it. I tried purling, let me see if I can show you. The normal way to continental purl, you would put that in there, put that over there, and off, right? But there's a way of purling where instead of pulling it that way, so like that, you can do that, and it's easier actually. So you're just pulling down on the yarn. You just put it through there, and you pull it through like that, just like that. It's so easy. But then you're twisting all your stitches. So then you have to purl into, or you have to knit into the back loop the next row. So that's the downside. But some people do that. They figure out a way to make it work. I decided I wasn't too interested in knitting through the back loop of every stitch, every knit stitch, because then it starts to make knitting not so much fun. So what did I do? Well, after leaving knitting for 20 years, when I was probably in my early 30s, I stopped knitting, and I took it up again when I got older and just felt like it, I guess. Well, no, a friend of mine at work, I think I mentioned this story, she was doing cowls for Christmas, and I thought, heck, I could do that. So I picked up my knitting needles again after so many years, went over to Espace Tricot, picked up some yarn and started knitting cowls and hats and stuff, and had a really good time doing that, and I never stopped, never looked back. And the funny thing is, my best friend, Linda, who also knitted as a young woman, also gave it up for 20 years and also started knitting at the exact same time. I mean, the same month, but independently from me. Like, we both started knitting the same, like November of 2013, I guess it was. And And I just happened to call her up one day and I said, "Oh, guess what? I started knitting." And she's like, "What? So did I." So we've been knitting pals ever since. I mean, we've always been great friends, but to have this in common too has been a real joy. And yeah, anyway, so we had where was I? Right. So my purling journey. See, I've always hated purling. So when it comes to things, large items to knit, I tend to knit sweaters that are knit in the round. I've avoided cardigans until I started this cardigan for my husband, the Cathedral Grove. And I have embraced garter stitch shawls and avoided other ones that. So you know, Stephen West is my friend, kind of thing, because he does a lot of garter stitch. Tried different things. I tried cottage knitting a little bit, but that requires a straight needle most of the time, so I'm not that keen on that idea. But I also tried Portuguese knitting. Now, Portuguese knitting requires you to put the yarn around your neck, like so. I'm going to show you because I quite like it. Because for purling, it is very, very easy. Now, I don't know that I'll be able to... Oh, shoot, do you know what? Oh, no, this is fine. Okay. Oops. All right, third time's the charm. I'm going to try this again. So I've got my yarn over my index or middle finger, and I'm purling, okay? So, purl. All you have to do is lift up the working yarn, which is around your neck, from left to right, and you just pull it over the needle and then pull it through. Bang. That's it. That's Portuguese purling, and it's so easy. So I've come to the decision that I'm just going to purl Portuguese and knit continental. So it means taking the yarn from around my neck. Or I do have what they call like a knitting brooch, which you can either pin to your clothes or hang from this sort of thing. And it's got like a hook, and you just hook it on there. Anyway, I've had some issues with that, so right now I'm just putting it around my neck, and yeah, with my hair I find it annoying to take it around off my neck all the time. I don't know. It's a work in progress, but I'm telling you, it's fun to try these different methods and to have all this in your arsenal. I've always said that I you know, learning these new skills just adds to your potential as a knitter, and I'm hoping that it'll help me. Definitely learning to be more comfortable with purling is important to me, because at the moment, when I knit continental, there's some problem. I cannot keep the tension. I think that when I purl continental, something happens with my little finger, and it just gets floppy. I just can't seem to, I think it's something to do with when I move my finger over this way, there's something in my mechanics of my hand that makes it so that I can't keep my hand sort of firm, so that the yarn gets too loose. Anyway, so there's that. The other way I've been investigating is Norwegian style knitting and purling. Now, Norwegian style knitting is very similar to continental. The only difference, really, I'll show you a little bit. The only difference is that you don't tension the yarn through your fingers, but what you do is you can check Arne and Carlos. They have some good tutorials on that. Basically, you put it over your index finger and you don't tension it any other way, and you just hold it really close to the knitting needle, so you see, like that. But their purling is really interesting. So what they do, we're going to keep purling because this is a purl row. What they do is they keep the yarn on this side instead of pulling it over this way. which to me might help me not lose my tension, because my problem is when I move this finger over, I can just feel that my little finger wants to flop. Strange. Anyway, even my last two fingers. So I am, so with their Norwegian purling, they would keep the yarn on the same side as if you were to knit, except you would put your right needle under the yarn, put it through towards you, put it through the stitch, you know, normally as if to purl. But then you kind of pull the needle back and then go like this and then pull it through like so. See? And that makes a purl stitch that is the same as the one I just made. So yeah, it's also not too bad. I might try learning to do that a bit quicker. I find it a little slow, but at least I don't have to move my yarn over. Am I not in the viewfinder? Probably not. Anyway, so that's my purling journey, and I hope that that inspires you to check out some techniques on YouTube. I mean, there's so many wonderful tutorials. Very Pink Knit has got a ton. She's terrific. Arne and Carlos, of course. Anyway, there's so many. I suggest that if you're running into a problem or you just find yourself not comfortable with certain techniques, then find another way. There's so many other ways of doing things. And you don't have to be stuck with just one. So that's my beautiful CCC 3-color cashmere. And it's a well, it's getting to be a half finished object. It could be called a hoe. And now next, oh yeah, I've made some progress on my beautiful Cathedral Grove. Here it is. It may look exactly the same, but I assure you I have made progress, and I'm very happy with it. And so that's the front, the two fronts. I think the shoulders look big enough. And here's the back. Isn't that pretty? I love it. I know that it's going to be, I had one little tiny issue, which I don't think you're going to notice. I'm pretty sure a man on a galloping horse would never notice it. So that's my criteria. When I went to put all the pieces together, because you start with the back, then you do the two fronts, and then but you pick them back up, do the right and the left, and then you're all in one piece knitting. And so yeah, when I did that, which was around the armholes here, that's when you start putting them all together. I somehow I was one row off on one side. Like I had one more row, like on the right side versus the left. I mean, it was barely noticeable, but you know, I did notice it. So I thought, do I have to worry about this? Like, is there some ultimate reason why I should worry about it? Because I don't really think it's noticeable. But so I went over to the store, got their advice, and lovely Chloe recommended I just carry on. And I thought, well, I like that advice, so I'm taking it. So anyway, it's coming along very slowly. I find I can't do more than 2 or 3 rows at a time because they're long rows and my arm gets tired. So this is a really long work in progress. I'm just not going to stress about it. And I may even start my own sweater sometime. My branches and buds sweater that I'm dying to continue knitting. So we'll see. And it's the same with these long rows, these terribly long rows of for shawls. This is one reason I really love the Vertices Unite shawl, because the rows never got too big because you were always doing these asymmetrical little added sections, and it really was nice. You know, it was never like more than 100 stitches or something like that. Maybe a little bit more than that, but I can't remember exactly. But the next one I'm going to do with a worsted weight yarn or a DK weight yarn for another Vertices Unite, which I've always wanted to do. And then I will do fewer stitches and I'll have just as big a result. So I'm looking forward to that. I was actually thinking of making one for my son. I think he would really like that. You know, he's not shy to wear color either, so that's cool. Like I just took him clothes shopping the other day for his birthday. My 29-year-old son. And I bought him 2 pairs of pants, and he chose these blue ones in these sort of like light blue, a really nice sort of powder blue, and a pair of like dark pink, you could almost say. I guess they were kind of a burgundy, but there was a lot of pink in there. No problem. He loved them. So, I mean, he chose them, obviously. So, yeah. So I think he's a worthy, well, you know, I know he's knit worthy because he wears all my knitting that I give him, and he'd be happy to get one of those scarves, I think. That can be really both. I think that can work for men and women for sure. Okay, so those are my works in progress, I believe. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of, okay, I don't know if I showed you this before, but I'm just going to show it to you on my Knit Companion. I'm going to show you this shawl that I'm thinking of making. Okay, this is by Isabel Kramer, and it's called A Girl's Best Friend. And isn't that lovely? I think it's really fun. I've always loved pink and brown together, and I have some brown yarn that I bought specifically to knit with pink, but I didn't buy the right pink at that time. So this time, this is like an Eco-Andean brown yarn that I bought many years ago. It's a nice rich brown. It's not really coming out that way on the camera because it's kind of blowing out a little bit. But it's a nice brown, I guess. I'm just not a brown person, as you know, as you probably know by now. But when you put it with pink, I really, really like it. I don't think you're getting the full effect either because of the light. And then I had also bought this other shade of pink. So I've got 2 different shades of pink to go with this brown to make this shawl. Well, I also bought a 4th color because I didn't quite have enough, which is those. Even though I think the shawl only calls for 3 colors. I forget. But so I bought this as well. And this is a cashmere linen blend by Sylph, I think. I forget what it's called exactly. I can put it somewhere in the show notes or underneath here. But anyway, those were my 4 ideas, but this one is like, I don't know what I was thinking. It's a light fingering and it's not going to be thick enough to match this DK yarn that I bought. I don't know what I was thinking, I swear. So I may have to substitute something else. But anyway, that's my plan. I'm going to make this beautiful shawl. And I did a little swatch, like a good girl. I did this in the DK, which is a Julie Asselin light blue DK. It's 90% merino and 10% silk. And that's the pattern. What do they call it? Teardrop pattern. Isn't that lovely? It really turned out well, and I'm loving it. I don't know how you check gauge on that kind of thing, though. I pretty much didn't quite get gauge here because actually the yarn calls for fingering weight yarn. I don't know even how I got this close. I'm only about a half a stitch off. So, and I used the right needles that they called for in the pattern, so I obviously have much different tension than Isabel Kramer. But I'm working on making my, you see how, if you look carefully, you can see that I have some stitches there that look twisted, and I'm trying to figure out what I did because I have a tendency to fool around with my purl stitches, as you noticed, as I just mentioned to you. So I don't know whether that's on the purl roll that happened. I wouldn't be surprised. And that happens to me sometimes. I don't know. Anyway, got to work on that. So that's my plan, was to make that gorgeous shawl. But I was just watching Espastico, and Lisa was talking about knitting. She started knitting another Vertices Unite because she loves them as much as I do. And she's already done 2 of them, I think, and now she's on her 3rd one. And I thought, well, this might make a really nice Vertices Unite, you know, all these colors. And if I don't want to do a new one, you know, a new pattern, if I change my mind. We'll see. I'm not in a hurry because I really want to finish my CCC first. We shall see if I get that done. We shall see if I finish my CCC. Okay, well, what else have I got to tell you? Oh yes, I wanted to show you some stuff, some yarn that I have in my sort of deep stash. I have all these beautiful single ply yarns that I got, and this is all the from the Canada Parks collection. Fleece Artist. They're a Nova Scotia company, I think, and they put out this whole series of yarns based on the Canadian provinces and their national parks, and they're great. I love them all. And I thought, well, I can't really put them all in one because they don't really match, but maybe I could put these 3 in one shawl. Maybe that would make a good Vertices Unite somehow. This one is kind of an odd man out. I think that's the Quebec one, actually. And these ones are all kind of in the same color family, so maybe I could do something with those. Those are gorgeous. Yeah, so this other beautiful, beautiful yarn, which has been in my stash for over a year now. I just love this. I can't tell you. It's a Yarn Ink yarn, sock yarn. They're tough sock, or I forget what they call it. And I don't remember the colorway, but I can find out. And again, it's not really showing up as nice as it is. That's probably a little bit more like it. Yeah, I don't know what to do with it. I have this great one-off. I could definitely just make socks with it. Maybe I will. That might be the best thing to do with it. But it's one of those balls of yarn that you just can't bear to use almost, because it has to be the perfect project, you know. That's how I feel about this. And it was an impulse buy. I was planning on only getting these other 2 balls of yarn that I bought from that site. And then I ended up getting this one. Their Yarn Ink's yarn is wonderful stuff. I recommend it highly. So anyway, someday I will figure out what to do with this. All right, well, I guess that's it for today. I can't think of anything else I want to share with you. I'm looking forward to starting my Branches and Buds pullover. Maybe I'll start that in the next week, just so that I have something else to show you next week. Next week, maybe 2 weeks from now for sure. I don't seem to be able to get on this any more often than sort of every 2 weeks. But it's been fun sharing my stories with you. I'm going to sign off now. I had to re-record this sign off a day later because of a little technical difficulty. So I got a chance to put on my beautiful t-shirt, Guilty Knitter t-shirt. It can be yours as well. I'm going to leave the link down below. Also, if you enjoyed this, please press subscribe so you don't miss any episodes, and press like too if you want. You can find me on Instagram as Guilty Knitter, @GuiltyKnitter, and on Ravelry as OSMViv. Till next time, probably in a couple of weeks. Happy knitting. Okay, and my little friends also say goodbye. Are you gonna say goodbye? Hey guys? Aw, Rosie, say goodbye. Alright, goodbye.